It is 2020, a new decade, a new year, and there will be changes made by Connecticut lawmakers, but what will they be? Legalizing marijuana? Reinstating tolls? Regional reform? We'll ask State Representatives Vincent Candelora, a Republican, and Pat Boyd, a Democrat. Plus, 4 more years for Hartford Mayor Luke Bronin. What kind of changes will we see in our capital city? Plus, our flashback. That time Denise DeCenzo sat down with a legend, Paul Newman, about his desire to help Connecticut kids. It's all straight ahead on Face the State this Sunday, January 5th, 2020.
From Eyewitness News, Connecticut's most watched local political program, this is Face the State.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dennis House. Thanks for joining us. 2020 could be a year of change here in Connecticut as lawmakers set out to deal with transportation and other issues. With us here today, State Representatives Vincent Candelora, a Republican, and Pat Boyd, a Democrat. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us here today.
Thank you for having us.
So let's talk about this upcoming session and what we're going to be talking about. And a year ago, Democrats wanted tolls. They've kind of scaled it back. Now it's only tolls on trucks for certain bridges. What do you think will get passed? And Republicans are against tolls of any sort, correct?
Yeah, I think it's going to be frankly difficult to get a tolls proposal passed this session. You know, the governor created some problems for his party when he continued to shift. It went from trucks only to cars to 80 gantries to 50 gantries. Now we're back to trucks only. The public generally doesn't trust that. So while I might have heard 6 months ago from constituents that, yeah, maybe we should do tolls, now I'm hearing from people, we don't want them.
There is some confusion there, Representative Boyd, because first it was going to be trucks only, as the representative pointed out, and now we're at a point where it's going to be only trucks for some bridges. What kind of tolling system do you support?
No, personally, I struggle with tolling. I think that trucks only is fraught with issues. I think that with the lawsuit that's going on in Rhode Island, it bears some looking at. The conversation about a transportation strategy is an important one, and I think that needs to be bore out some more. But I think each individual legislator's got to look at what's on the table and what they think is the right thing to do, and I struggle and I can't support it.
State Senator Len Fasano says we should dip into the rainy day fund. Would you support that as a Democrat?
As somebody who crossed the aisle for us to work on a really good bipartisan budget that made it the volatility cap in place, which the representative is a big part of, I hate to see us go into that for this. Let's get the strategy down. Let's look at all the options on the table. Tolling is out of favor, so let's put our heads together and work together and try to figure out something that's better. Do
you support the rainy day fund?
I actually do. I think the money is there. It's growing exponentially. We've gone from a 5% rainy day fund to it's going to exceed 15%. And what we're looking to do is pay down pension debt to free up our money. That's exactly how that is supposed to operate. That rainy day fund is supposed to operate, and putting it toward transportation when we need it makes sense.
People from our state are going to other states to legally purchase marijuana in those states. Do you think we should legalize recreational marijuana here in Connecticut, Representative Boyd?
I don't think that at this time that there's support for it. It's come up in the 3 years that I've been up there. It's been debated. There's points on all different sides of it, and I just don't think that right now with this legislature that there's a will to move forward on it. I think it's something that needs to bear some more research, and maybe future legislators will take it up.
Representative Candelora, you've been against it for some time. Is that still your position?
Yeah, I have. I have to say, when the information comes out, we're seeing the vaping epidemic where people took ill, most all of them, because of vaping THC. I have children in high school now, and I've become more emphatic that we cannot legalize marijuana. It is having such a detrimental impact on our youth, and I think as time bears out, we're going to see it's more problematic than it's worth.
There are some believe that a lot of the waste in state spending is actually done on the local level when towns repeat certain services, when they're all close to each other. And for instance, police departments in 3 towns with a total of 60,000 people combined. The governor would like to see some regionalization. He's talked about it in schools. What would you like to see done?
So I think, towns are already regionalizing. I received a phone call the other day about talking about sharing on public works equipment and things of that nature. I think towns are already looking to save because they get impacted when they're increasing real property taxes. And our local officials, I think, get impacted much more on tax increases. What I don't want to see the state of Connecticut do is regionalize and then pull more money away from cities and towns. We need to be supporting those cities and towns. And so if there is regionalization, the state needs to continue to fund the cities and towns at the levels they're funding it. We can't use regionalization to pull back on state dollars.
Representative Boyd?
I represent some of the most rural communities in the state, 5 rural towns, and frankly, those town governments would not be able to operate if it wasn't for a cooperative regionalization. And some of the things that we've already found efficiencies on, paramedic service, dispatch, school sharing, regionalization there, are things that can work in other parts of the state. So I think a one-size-fits-all is not the approach that we need to take, but there are certainly some things that we can do to be more efficient, and I think there needs to be more voices in the room for that type of discussion to happen.
What kind of other issues do you think we'll see come up during the next session?
Well, I think one of the things we saw last session is whether or not to force vaccination for children to attend schools. That issue certainly is going to come up. I think with all the problems that we're having with our quasi-agencies and the Dahlia Foundation, with the money state tax dollars is put into that foundation, I think we're going to have a conversation about transparency and proper reporting and openness in government. I think those are going to be big issues.
Representative Boyd?
I think we do our best work when we work together, and I think there's some opportunities that exist with economic development. The Commissioner of Economic Development has said that we need to rethink how we go about incentivizing businesses to stay here and do new businesses to come here. And so I think if we take a hard look at that, there's stuff that both sides of the aisle can get behind and make a real change.
It'll be a very busy year ahead. State Representatives Patrick Boyd and Vincent Candelora, we thank you so much for being on the program.
Thanks for having me
here today. Later, we will flash back to Denise DeCenzo's very first big interview here at Channel 3. And next, Mayor Luke Bronin on what's next and what's new for Hartford. We also invite you to watch past editions of Face the State. You can do that right now on our app, the WFSB app, or on our YouTube channel.